Wealth Principle 3. Wealth Principle 3 is understand the 4 types of money. If you don't understand the 4 types of money to that extent, your life is actually suffering. So some of the things that you will probably have felt from other people over the last few days. By the way, Thanksgiving. Give everybody a round of applause. If you're a grateful person in America, thankful for everything. And if you're not in America, let's give you a round of applause for celebrating our holiday. It's amazing. Financial freedom, or I guess independence from Britain for quite a while. So some of the challenges that people face in business are not having cash flow. Has anybody ever suffered not cash flow issues? Not having enough? Just it's been small or it's been not good. So the 4 types of money today are going to solve some cash flow issues. Financial strain, failing to comprehend these money types is one of the reasons that you don't have the money that you want. Also, if you've ever had large sums of money come in and then disappear on you, it could be because you didn't treat that money properly. There are 4 types of buckets or 4 types of places that money goes. Missed profit opportunities are another challenge that comes when you don't understand the 4 types of money. And also being in stupid or super risky investments that could take away all of your opportunity, all of your wealth. And like I said, cash flow problems and stagnations of wealth. Lack of understanding regarding equity can result in stagnation of wealth growth, preventing investors from leveraging their property values and further investments. Show fans, if you're interested in learning the 4 types of money today and maybe just reviewing these. So this wealth principle didn't come to me because I'm really smart. It actually came from one of the books that we've read. Who knows we read a book a week? Who's heard of this concept? Awesome. So before we dive in, welcome back, alchemists. This is the 52 Weeks to Wealth, and this is Wealth Principle 3. Understand the 4 types of money. Those 4 types are income, equity, flow, and profit. And we're going to talk about each one individually. Now, some of these you may have heard of as different types of money. You may have heard of income as revenue. You may be familiar with flow as expenses, profit, the true reward. This is cash flow is how we're going to define it. And then equity, which is actually money that's sitting inside of assets. These came to me from a book that you have, most of you, I believe, have read, The E-Myth. Who here has read The E-Myth? Well, there are multiple versions of it. Michael Gerber wrote multiple versions, and we'll talk about that book later on during the book of the week. And that book that he wrote with Than Merrill, who's a known real estate investor, is The E-Myth Real Estate Investor. So the real estate investor from the E-Myth actually has 4 types of flow, not mentioned in any other E-Myth book. Show hands if you understand, real estate runs a little differently from businesses. It runs a little bit differently. It's got some different functions. It's also a business. And so this principle is not going to be very heavy on the mindset. As we go deeper into the year, we do talk more mindset. We do talk more esoteric ideas. We talk about passion and purpose. There are 5 tips, 5 skills that are necessary to become extremely successful. And the more, to the degree that you understand those 5 skills, I talked about these at the 100 Millionaire Summit, the more successful you are. The first being your passion or your purpose. Understanding your passion purpose wakes you up in the morning, gets you out of bed. If you've ever been depressed or not motivated, it's because you just didn't focus on your why, didn't know where you were going. The second one is communication. The more leveled up you are communicating with other people, the more money you get, the more deals you get, the more simplicity or time you get back in your life. The easiest way to get more time is to have somebody else do all the things you don't want to do. True or true? Show of hands if you understand. Communication is important for getting people to do things that you want them to do. Also, networking. The quality of your network dictates the height of your net worth, because all the money you want is in the hands of other people. So this is the third principle that all of these wealth principles are worked around. So there's 5 key strategies, 5 key skills that we work on all throughout the year. 52 wealth principles, but they're all broken into these 5 categories. The fourth one, I'm sorry, is business. If you don't understand economics, if you don't understand supply and demand and business efficiency and effectiveness, to that degree, your life is suffering. To that degree, you're missing out on opportunities of efficiency or effectiveness in your relationships, in your body, and in your financial wealth, or even in your mindset. And then the 5th one is real estate, because without real estate, you don't have financial freedom. Without real estate, you can't hold onto your time as much. So sometimes you have to jump back into jobs. Show of hands if you know most people who are wealthy have real estate. And that's why these are the 5 principles or 5 key skills that we focus on throughout the year. This principle today is very much a real estate principle, although it can be tied into business very clearly. Now, one of the benefits of understanding your money is an increase in profit margins. Show of hands if you like an increase in profit margins. Excellent. Excellent. Now, sales are not always the reason for an increase in profit margin. Sometimes we reduce expenses. So we're going to talk about how we know the difference and when it's the right time. The second one is an enhancement of cash flow management. Who here knows if you buy the right things in the right order, you can have whatever you want? Yes, you must buy the right things in the right order to have whatever you want. That's a quote. Strategic wealth building. So when you're more strategic about your wealth, you will end up with more wealth. In fact, we're not here to talk about buying stuff today, even though it was Black Friday yesterday. We're here to talk about buying assets, acquiring assets that will multiply themselves and get you to that next level, and risk mitigation, eliminating some of the risks that are involved in the market. Who here has heard of super risky investments, even made some themselves and lost a lot of money in those? Excellent. Who here knows somebody who's lost a lot of money in risky investments? Absolutely. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we make sure we avoid those, and wealth diversification, which, if you know wealth principle 4, which is tomorrow, is not about wealth diversification. This one is all about focus. And I'll tease it out. Who here knows there are wealth principles that happen every week? All right, so they all stack on top of each other. Next week's wealth principle, so you know, is going to be put all your eggs in one basket. So even though we're going to talk a little bit about diversification today, the true wealth principle is to put all your eggs in one basket and guard that basket. This comes straight from Warren Buffett, and we'll talk about that on Saturday, next Saturday, for Wealth Principle 4. One of the complaints that I have had for Wealth Principle 3 is that it says there are 4 types of money. Why didn't we put this as Wealth Principle 4? And the reason is because if you don't understand the 4 types of money, you won't know how to put all your eggs in one basket. So we need you to get this locked in first so that you can then move on to the next principle. Unfortunately, 3 comes before 4, and we are going to talk about 4 types of money. So the first being the most important to a broke person, the one that most broke people know about, and that is your general income. This is the revenue number. This is the money that is coming in. Most people stop at this number. Now, revenue is important because without it, all the others can never exist. In some of the functions of the other 3 are revenue, are income-based. So revenue, what is it really? It is money coming into your account. This is not money you spend. This is not money that you've profited. This is not money that is cash flow. This is money that is coming into the account from either activities yourself or from passive assets. There are 2 types of income. The first being active income. This is money that you've worked for. The second being passive income. This is money that something else has worked for, either a human being or an asset, whether it be digital or in person, hard. But that is income that is coming in from either active or passive income streams. What we do with income dictates what the rest of our money is actually going to be allotted for. So a simple example, if you're a real estate investor and your gross rents, your rent roll is $10,000 a month, let's call it, back in the day in Fall River, I could have 10 units giving me $1,000 a piece. That's $10,000 of revenue, $10,000 of income. That is not cash flow. And who here has at some point heard somebody call it cash flow, their gross rent? They said, yeah, I'm cash flowing this much. That is a mistake. Cash flow is a different function. Income and revenue are not money you get to spend. They are money you must allocate. They're the beginning of the game. They are simply money that has come in, but they are not profit. They are not cash flow, and they are not a form of equity. This is money that you have the opportunity to do something with. So write it down. Income is important, but it's not the game. Income is also something you pay taxes on. Income you pay taxes on. The other 3 forms of money you do not pay taxes on. So this is where taxes are paid, is on income. And the other 3 may allow you, one of them may allow you to remove the tax burden that income presents. I want you to be very clear. When you borrow money, that is not called income. We'll talk about that one in a minute. When you earn money from somebody else, when money comes into your account, this is a taxable event. So for those of you who are familiar with how taxes work, income is the only one that can be taxed. So write that down, very important. Why is it important? Well, without income, well, you can't do anything. Show of hands if you've ever had no money and didn't get to spend anything. You didn't, yeah. So we know income means quality of life if you get to keep it. So let's move past income. Another way to remember this is it's your cash register. It's money into the bank, money into the account. The next one is flow. And a lot of people look at their income and their flow, and it's usually the same number. Now, another way to look at flow is your expenses. It's your standardized expenses. In the real estate business, we have something called the 50% rule. 50% of my income, ends up going out into expenses. The 50% rule. It's very fun. And then on top of, in real estate, on top of the expenses, we also have our debt. And the 50% rule basically says all my maintenance, my insurance, my taxes, all of that is going to come out of the cash flow, the profit, the income, the revenue. And then on top of that, my debt will come out of the rest, the remainder. So that ends up being a function we call flow. And this is not cash flow, or another way to put it would be expenses. But expenses are a number that sits in your bank account no matter what. Has anybody ever seen that number? You know what it is, my landlords? You know, sometimes it's like $30,000, $40,000 that just rotates. And depending on certain times of the month, that number goes up and goes down. It goes up, it goes down. It's kind of like a heartbeat or a pulse or the lungs of your company. It has to go up, it has to go down, kind of fluctuates. So your company is breathing in and out. If you don't put or understand your flow, sometimes you'll spend money that isn't really yours. It belongs to this flow account. It belongs to this flow function of the business. Flow is important because it's also something that can be reduced. Has anybody ever held their breath before? Anybody ever held their breath? Yeah. So your business can hold its breath too. You can actually allow flow to build up a little more, but at some point you will have to exhale. You will have to breathe back in. So even though the business can fluctuate its flow for certain times, you can extend bills, or you can extend paying the water bill. It's one of the things I've seen a lot of real estate investors are known for. The city hates it, by the way, but they'll extend their water bill, they'll extend the tax bill, and you can go 2-3 months and get away with this before you suddenly have to pay all of that. Show of hands if you understand what flow is. It's basically expenses. It sits in your account, and it's this ghost money that keeps going up and down. And although it can get super big, sometimes you do a refinance and suddenly you don't have to pay the mortgage on a property for an extra month. Who loves those free months from a refinance? Oh, they're amazing. That allows flow to go up a little bit more. It actually can allow a little extra profit in the company. So some of those, so understanding flow gives you some freedom in how things work. Number 3 is profit. Profit is another way to say cash flow. Cash flow, or I say profit because sometimes it happens when we sell a property and get capital gains. So there are certain types of profit within a real estate business, and one of them could be selling your building, selling a building and having this additional profit that's been sitting in there, which is a function of the 4th type of money, which we'll talk about in a minute. And this profit can also be from your cash flow. It's another way to say, more money than I'm bringing in from expenses. My revenue is higher than my flow, and it could become profit. Now, profit is something that is also beyond the money that you put in reserves. Who here knows that shit happens in real estate? So it's important that your flow includes a little bit of reserve money. Part of your flow, the second type of money, comes from not knowing what the future is going to hold, and you put it into that account. Some of the mistakes I've seen is people including the reserve money as part of their cash flow, as part of their profit. And then you end up with these months with not having money. And now you've got to go borrow or take from Peter to pay Paul, or you've got to go and put on a credit card, and it becomes a little bit of a complicated mess. Show of hands, real estate investor, if you know what I'm talking about. Yes, yes. When we mistake cash flow, we mistake profit for flow. So why do we work hard? It's actually for this profit thing. Most of us bust our butts to get more profit into our accounts. And profit is a function of improving revenue by raising rents. And it's also a function of improving flow by decreasing expenses. So when you understand raise rents, decrease flow, you end up with a little bit more cash flow. Who here has noticed that there's kind of a limitation to how much you can do that on a building? Every property kind of has a maximum. There's an effective efficiency that happens between. And if you don't maximize your profit, eventually you end up with something, either financial problems or emotional anger at the asset. If you do not manage your flow properly and you do not increase your income, probably eventually you will sell the asset just because you're mad at it. Show of hands if you've ever considered selling an asset because it pissed you off by not bringing enough money in. That's right. We've all had that moment of, I hate this thing. And then you flash sell it and get rid of it, or you double down and fix the unit. So cash flow or profit is the main number that we want as investors but it takes driving hard on income, which is raising rents again or improving your units, and it takes driving hard on expenses, which is one of the biggest opportunities most real estate investors ignore, either raising rents or cutting back on some of the expenses within their portfolio. If you have a property manager, I can almost 100% guarantee that there is opportunity in your flow account, that they are spending too much. If you have a property manager for a long enough period of time, at some point you have to go back and you have to double check and sharpen their pencil. Show of hands if you understand. It's your responsibility to make sure you've got profit, to make sure that your flow isn't out of control. And also, property managers don't like raising rents. So it is important that you go and check what the actual market rents are and actually drive your units up to quality so that you can get better profit. So profit is a function of two other types of money, and you have to look at them separately because they're two different types of work. The fourth one, and probably the most interesting for real estate investors, is equity. This type of money is one that even extremely experienced real estate investors forget to look at, forget to understand. And you heard me talk about the return on equity, return on ROE. This is a function that only happens if you've been in the game either properly or long enough, because some of us do buy our real estate with equity at the closing. Show of hands if you're one of those. You buy with a nice 20% discount. Maybe you're one of those who does a forced appreciation. You get an extra 20%, a year or two from now. Awesome. Give yourselves a round of applause if you're one of those. That's what we teach, right? Buy at a 20% discount, force the appreciation by improving rents and improving the property, and then hold for 3 years, and you might get this benefit of amortization. Maybe the loan pay down and maybe the market appreciates. The average is about 5% per year. So that can give you another 20% equity position. And if you raise rents every year for 4 years, you could get potentially an additional 11% of equity because the rents have increased and the value of your property has increased by that amount. Equity is ghost money. It sits there, it exists, it's a reality, but you don't get to tap into it except for in special occasions. One would be the sale of a property. Two would be a refinance or a HELOC or some sort of loan taken against the property itself. That money sits there. You can borrow against it tax-free. By the way, expenses are not taxed and cash flow is not taxed. Equity also is not taxed unless equity becomes cash flow. If revenue. If equity becomes revenue, then it becomes tax. Show of hands if you understand the law. Don't take the money out of the system. That's all the government is saying. If you keep it in play, you can 1031 to keep it rolling. Don't take the equity out. If you keep it as equity, it's not taxable income. If you borrow against equity, it's not taxable income. It's only when you turn equity into revenue, when you turn equity into income, that is when you're taxed. So most real estate investors do avoid the concept of paying taxes because taxes don't help you grow your portfolio. They keep your portfolio small. Imagine every time you sell something, you get a haircut of 15 to 20% of your value. Show of hands if you understand that would hurt over time. Compound interest has a reverse effect as well. It can shrink your growth. So if you can delay or avoid or kick the taxes down the road, you end up with more income because equity is allowed to grow. Equity is also a function of debt pay down. Your tenants are paying down your debt. And so your equity, the difference between the amount you owe and the amount that the property is worth increases. Even if the property stays the same, if your tenants are paying down the debt, your equity now increases. That gap in between is a function of equity. Why is this one so important? Sometimes real estate investors who have purchased property, they only look at the profit number. They look at the profit number based on ROI. Something, I put 10,000 in, it's pulling me $10,000 a year back. I'm getting 100% ROI. But over time, that property may go up in equity. The equity position may increase. And so you may end up with $100,000 in equity. So now your ROI is not, your ROI from the original purchase may be 100%, but your ROE becomes 10%. Show of hands, 10% is still good. That's a wonderful number. But what if the property, say you bought a $500,000 property and it goes up 10% in value, now you've got an additional $200,000 in equity in the property. Because the percentages of value can go up because you've taken out debt and you've got a big loan on this thing. If you got $1 million property and it goes up 5%, you're talking about $1 million going up $50,000. So if you understand, 5% becomes a lot. If it goes up 20%, you're talking about the $200,000 of increase in equity on that property. If you already had $200,000 in equity and then you got an additional $200,000 in equity, but your cash flow is still only $10,000 a year. Show of hands if you understand, you're losing money now. ROE, it's a return on equity. I had a property just like this, right? We were pulling in $14,000 a year, and there was $500,000 in equity in it. And so our ROE was like 2.5%. I could have gotten better return on investment if I put it into the marketplace, if I put it into the stock market. So you start looking at your portfolio, the ROE, and it allows you to scale out. It allows you more cash flow. It's something we call pyramiding. When you have $200,000 or $500,000 of equity, sometimes you'll pull money out. That's called the BRRRR strategy, where you buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat, you'll pull money out if the property can sustain the new debt, right? When interest rates are 9%, 8%, you start looking at that and saying, it's really hard for the property to sustain the new debt because all the old debt has to be refinanced. Debt that's at 3%, 4%, 5% now has to be refinanced at 8%, 9%. Show of hands if you're an investor, looked at these numbers already. It does not work, right? This second positions can work. If you put a second position on your property, sometimes that can work. But it's when you have to take the whole original debt and put it at the new interest rate, now you have problems. So what a lot of investors are doing, myself included, is we're looking at ROE and saying, man, I'm losing money on the equity. I'm losing potential money. And I can't refinance the thing because it can't sustain the new debt. So what I'll do is pyramid, where I sell a piece of property and I buy more units. So if I sell a 3-family to buy 6 units, or I sell a 6 unit to buy, and some of the numbers are absolutely crazy. We're selling a 10 unit right now, which gave us the down payment to go and buy 35 units. So that as you scale this, the units don't matter so much as the cash flow that you're able to acquire from the sales. Using 1031 exchanges keeps you out of the taxes. And I don't want to go too complicated in the tax strategies, but the importance of equity cannot be negated. When you're buying real estate, it must cash flow, no question. There must be revenue on the property. The expenses must be kept low. The flow must be kept low. And the revenue must become profit. You must be able to separate that gap for profit to hold, listen to this, to hold the property for a long period of time. It's the only reason it must cash flow. You do not need to live off of your cash flow in real estate. You must have cash flow so you can hold the property long enough for it to accumulate equity. The more equity it accumulates, the more options you have as a real estate investor. You can either refinance or pull money out, or you can sell to buy bigger properties. In the beginning, you're not going to get financially free by buying your first property. Now, the cash flow for that 3-family, the cash flow for that first rental is not going to make you financially free. But if you hold it for 5 years and it builds up enough equity, you've used it, leveraged it to acquire a portfolio of 20, 40, 60, 80 units, then the cash flow, the small cash flow that comes off could be enough to get you financially free. So, fans, we can do the simple math? Absolutely. Excellent. So the 4 types of money, now that you understand them, the most important of them all is equity. If you don't have equity, the easiest way to get equity is to acquire today. They say, don't wait to buy real estate, buy real estate and wait. Don't time the market, spend time in the market. Equity is something you can only get from acquiring real estate or acquiring businesses. And if I were to look at businesses and real estate takes the least amount of knowledge, whereas business takes a lot of more specialized knowledge, which is why we use real estate to build millionaires. So, fans, if you understand, we're here to build 100 millionaires, inspired to build 100 millionaires. Just keep it flowing. Awesome. So every week we talk about one of our books. And the reason there are books is so that a person can take this principle and extrapolate and go deeper into it. There are 7 days in a week. So if you listen to a couple of hours a day on Audible, most of the books we suggest are only 7 hours. So if you listen 1 hour a day, there's a good chance you'll get through the whole book and implement this principle into your business. The way this one is implemented is I want you to go back. I want you to look at each one of your buildings, each one of your assets, or you can theorize assets. And I want you to look at the income, the revenue. I want you to look at the expenses, the flow. I want you to look at the cash flow, the profit. And then I want you to look at the equity in that building. I want you to do the math on each one. Where can I improve? Where can I improve? Where can I improve? Where can I improve? And if you look at each building this way, you can get a much better vision for where the portfolio is going. And you can also improve and tweak things, whether it's time to sell, whether it's time to raise rents, whether it's time to decrease expenses, and just go line by line on each one of those. And you're going to find that there are opportunities and that now you know what the next building to buy is. Because the goal is to take all of your assets and double that this year. Do not just buy stuff for the sake of buying stuff. Buy stuff to increase that line of equity, that line of income, that line of profit, and that line of cash flow. Show of hands if we understand. The goal is to double and keep it moving properly. Some assets may need to be sold in order to get rid of dogs. Sometimes you do buy a dog and it just needs to get rid of because it's bringing down your average or bringing down your number. Some assets need to be held because they're cash cows, right? There's animals in this industry. You got dogs and cows. And if it's a cash cow, you want to keep it. You want to keep milking it. You want to keep growing. You want to keep it healthy and keep renovating and fixing those buildings. One of the things that we've been talking about a lot lately has been the mastermind. And in the mastermind, we talk about cash flow. I'm sorry. One of the things we're talking about in the mastermind is cash flow. And if we don't have it, then we're angry people. And if we do have it, then we're happy people. Show of hands if you'd like to be a happy person. So our mastermind is primarily made up of happy people, people who cash flow and focus on cash flow. And one of the pitches that was made to me is, how do we get more cash flow? Like, how do we get more income from like the world right now? If we can't acquire real estate the way we have, what's the secret to getting cash flow? Well, every person in the mastermind has a business. Every single one of them is a business owner as well. They have different streams of income. They're agents, they're mortgage brokers, they're attorneys, they're financial planners, they're contractors, they're plumbers. Like, they all have some sort of different stream of income. And we've been focusing on increasing contacts with leads, focusing on people who either own real estate. And that's the primary person that I like to work on, is somebody who owns real estate, who I could also buy real estate from, and also wants the service that I have. So if I'm a real estate agent, I'm going to focus on landlords. It's just a lot easier for me to target the person who could either lend to me, give me the property, or be a client of mine in terms of selling or doing something. So we've been talking a lot more about workflows inside the mastermind. How do we connect with the right people? How do we get to that next level? How do we make sure that more cash flow is coming in? And how do we submit more offers automatically? So my suggestion is that you spend more time in these conversations as well, like spending more time in thinking about more clients, more leads, more closing, more like increasing your conversion. Like, how do I get from meeting a person to closing the person on something, qualifying? Like, I don't want you selling anybody who doesn't belong sold. So just only work with the right clients, the people who are more likely to sell, more likely to buy, more likely to be interested. And that is probably the most important thing to get a tribe around you with, is people who are doing the same thing. You know, Dorina asked me to talk a little bit about the mastermind, so I'm going to tease a little bit about what we're doing in it. And every week we get together. It kind of replaced what we did with the mentorship. Show hands if you've been through the mentorship program before, the 8 weeks, Monday nights. All right, so 8 weeks, Monday nights, we get on, we do accountability. Now with the mastermind, we're doing that for an entire year. So 52 weeks of getting on doing accountability, but also we're evaluating properties, we're evaluating businesses, and we're looking at the cash flow within each one of those. So throughout the year, it's a lot of more technical. Hey, how do we do this? How do we get that? We're looking at the CRM. We're saying, look at this funnel. Like, here's a new system for saying, getting more people on the phone with you, for doing the calling. It's a little bit more on the marketing side than it has been in the past. You know, in the past, we were just like, submit offers, submit offers, submit offers. So we're working on automating the offer submitting process. Show hands if you like something that just submits offers for you. It simplifies it. As long as the buy box is tight, which means you set up the buy box. That is one of our goals, is just driving people towards a faster acquisition of real estate that cash flows. You're not allowed to, and this is in the mastermind, this is outside of the mastermind, everybody in this community, you're not allowed to buy garbage deals. Show of hands if you commit to not buying garbage. That's right. All right. It looks bad for you. It looks bad for me. You're not allowed to buy shit. You're not allowed to buy garbage, but you're strongly encouraged to buy cash flow. And you're strongly encouraged to invest in markets that do make sense. One of the things that Mitch has been doing for us is targeting markets that make sense across the country. He's evaluating different markets that are making sense, why they make sense. And he's actually probably going to start blogging about it. And I'll probably bring him into the mastermind to every so often evaluate a market that we may be interested in. Like, you know, Decatur, Illinois is one that we recently took down a property in. We did 35 units out in Decatur. Let's give Greg a blanket round of applause. He's our partner on that. Did all the hard work. All the hard work. Dorina did all the other hard work, all the capital raising and conversations. And I mostly just said, yes, that's a good deal. Show of hands if you'd like to be able to say, yes, it's a good deal. A little bit more of that action in the world. Yeah, same. So that is the mastermind. You can go to mastermind.alchemistnation.com to learn more about it. It is not $1 million. It is not the price of mastery. It's not 37,000 or 39,000. It's also not 10,000, which is what it's worth, but it is 5,000 right now. Not because it's Black Friday, just because that's what I believe we can sustainably sell it at until I have too many people in there, and then we'll raise the price. So, fans, if you understand, price is a barrier to entry, so it's designed to hold back when I got too many people. So if you see the prices going up, it's because I've got a little bit more than I think is valuable inside the group. But for right now, I think a $500 a month or a $5,000 a year product is okay for me to deliver on. And mostly what we'll be doing inside the mastermind is building out the services for the next year. So our mastermind members will basically be helping us decide what Alchemist Nation needs and how we can better improve for real estate investors. Some of the things on the docket are a better calculator and a more automated process for submitting offers. Put the buy box in, and the AI basically sends an email to the agent and says, "Hey, I'd like to submit this offer." These are things we're working on that the mastermind will be telling us, "Hey, we want this, we want this, we want this," and we'll be working on them together. So it's a really cool time because AI allows us to do some shit that it never did allow us to do. And my partners are super nerds. So having Ron and Mark on the call, let's give them a big round of applause. If I didn't surround myself with nerdy people, I wouldn't be able to offer cool things like that. And Mitch has made a commitment to be more interesting in his content. We know that most people just want to know how to invest. Show of hands if you just like to know what markets are the best markets to invest in. It'd be a lot easier instead of guessing and figuring it out. So we know that information can be super addicting and super distracting. So we've always held back on that. We've never put out like, "Hey, check this market out," because if I showed you 20 markets, you just look at 20 markets and not get anything done. I'm okay now with creating more addictive content because that's a way to serve the community at a higher level. I'm just going to ask you to be responsible with the information that we give you. Is that okay? You got to know when to focus. It's good to hear different stuff in different markets, but you also got to not get distracted from market to market to market to market. I need you to focus on a market, choose a market, and stay in it. But so we have not given that information because that was a concern of mine. I was concerned that our community would get distracted and never buy stuff. And so I was just like, "You buy in your backyard. This is what we do." But as the market adjusts, I'm not buying in my backyard, so it's not authentic for me. Show of hands if you understand, you should do what makes the most sense for you. So Mitch will be talking a lot more about that. And with that being said, Michael Shine's voice is kind of shot right now, and we do the book of the week every week. And instead of it being Mike, we're going to have Mitch Jorsky, our secondary keeper of the books, the Scaredy Cat Guide to Real Estate Investing, the author of the book, Scaredy Cat Guide to Real Estate Investing, and what the heck Bitcoin is, knowing what the heck Bitcoin is. Mitch, without further ado, can you tell us this week's book of the week?
Certainly. Coming off the bench, I feel like I'm back at college basketball, trying to win that six-man award. Yeah, this book's good. It fits into everything you're saying. And you know, being that we just had Thanksgiving yesterday, and hopefully everyone had an awesome Thanksgiving. I'm actually thankful for this wealth principle because honestly, Walter, you're in a freaking zone right now. Like, this is a good wealth principle. If anyone's read E-Myth Revisited, you're off to a good start because I talk about this in the mentorship a lot. When it comes to real estate, once you learn the foundational principles of investing in real estate, you're in good shape. Like, you have a working business plan, and then it's a matter of just executing that plan. So the E-Myth Real Estate Investor book is essentially that same business process, but he's using real estate as the vehicle, he's using real estate as the example. So it makes it a little more actionable and just direct, so to speak. And, Walter was talking about in the wealth principle, basically all the different ways, you create wealth, you create cash flow, you create systems and whatnot. And it's the same thing with real estate. This book I like because he kind of uses the BRRRR strategy as the example, which we all know is my bread and butter. But the bottom line is, if you're looking on how to build a business, how to essentially do that in real estate, just go directly with this book. Like, E-Myth Revisited is awesome, but if you haven't read it yet and you're a real estate investor, then just go directly to this one because you're not going to miss out anything from E-Myth Revisited because the same principles are there. Like I said, it's the same foundation. and like I said, cater to real estate. So I say this all the time in the mentorship, keep it simple, smart ass. And that's really what it's about. We always overthink when it comes to real estate, because we think it's more complicated than it actually is. So um, when you learn the foundational principles of investment in real estate, right? From there, literally just do the things and build out those systems. Start building out that team. Walter made a great example of, doing that with the latest acquisition, 35 unit, and the people that were in the different roles, right? So like Greg was pretty much, acquisitions, and Dorina played her big part as well, and so on and so forth. And we talk about how we're leveraging, technology now to be able to make offers and systematize that. So just the fact, like I said, he's got two like nerds, so to speak, that love the AI stuff, right? And they're building out processes now. We're going to be able to automate offers, right? So what is the theme you heard the whole time and everything Walter was sharing? Systems and people in roles, right? And that's how you basically, I don't want to call it the machine because that sounds cold, but that's how you build the machine, right? That's how you do volume. Because at the end of the day, if you are trying to do everything yourself, if you're the one man show, guess what? You also are. You're your own bottleneck. You can only expand to as much as you can do. Like your bandwidth is whatever you're capable of doing, right? What you're going to push the limits, and then you're going to end up live, eat, and breathe your business and have no social life, no family life, no anything, and then you're going to burn out. So, and I think a lot of us entrepreneurs know that path because we did it at first. So, just like I said, keep it simple, learn the blueprint, and this is for any business really, and the E-Myth is great for that. And then from there, not only build out and list those jobs like he says in the book, where like you literally everything you're doing, you're creating that separate role because eventually you're going to hire somebody, but also hire the resources that make sense. Like Walter talked about a lot of tax strategies and how to use that, how real estate is such an advantage with taxes. Like make sure you have a good CPA. Like I shill my CPA all the time because he's awesome and he works with real estate investors and he's actually also good with crypto, which we all know is my thing. So you know I can drop his info in the chat for anyone that needs a good CPA. So just don't hesitate with stuff like that. I'll give you a quick example. Like 10, 12 years ago, I used to try and do my taxes myself because I came from a finance background. I can do taxes. I got TurboTax. I'm good to go. Yeah, hashtag fail. When I got a good CPA, he went back, he refiled for the prior 3 years of my taxes and got me back like 8 grand. And like none of it was like anything aggressive. Like it was completely, conservative. I just was that bad at my taxes because I'm not a CPA, right? Focus on what you're good at, hire good help for the rest. Don't try and do it all yourself. And I think that's really the big takeaway for me with that book, whether you read E-Myth Revisited or E-Myth Real Estate Investor. But obviously, Real Estate Investor makes sense because it caters to what we're all looking to do. So, yeah, I think that's it. I'll get off my soapbox now.
Give Miss Jorsky a big round of applause. I love this book because I've read a lot of books. Wow, I don't even know how many books. I think I'm close to 500 books right now. It's 460 to 470 for sure on my Audible, but I know there's a couple of print books, especially my author friends. This one was the first and only book I've ever seen define the four types of money. Now, the blue book, The Real Estate Investor from Gary Keller, the Millionaire Real Estate Investor, does kind of go into them. It does do a very good job at it and spends more time on them. But this was the first time that it clicked in my head that there are actually four types of money and they have to be addressed in four different ways. And that you can literally build wealth if you understand the equity side. If you understand equity and you can like grasp it, then you start understanding how true wealth is built. That's how the billionaires build their wealth. Show hands if you ever heard of Elon Musk. You know who that guy is? Heard of Bezos? You heard of Mark Zuckerberg? Like these fancy cats with their billions. Those aren't billions in income. That's not billions in cash flow. That's not billions in profit. Although those companies do have those numbers. Their net worth is another way of saying equity. It's their equity share inside the company, and that's what makes them billionaires. So as you start really thinking about wealth and start thinking at that level, it becomes equity. That's the only thing worth talking about. Show of hands if you grasp. Equity is what billionaires measure their wealth in. They don't measure it in cash flow. They don't measure it in profit. They don't measure it in flow. They measure in equity. Excellent. So every week we have exercises, because what the heck good is knowledge if you don't apply the knowledge? Who here's been told action, right? You got to be action oriented. You got to take action to be successful. So I gave you the steps of going through your portfolio this week. Then I want to, because Doug isn't on the call, we'll do a quick little mindset reprogramming. And you can close your eyes if you're not driving. If you are driving, Dorina, keep your eyes on the road. That's my baby you carrying there. Josh, if you're driving, keep your eyes on the road. Do not close your eyes when the suggestion is made. We're going to take a moment, or we're going to close our eyes. We're going to take a deep breath in. And we're going to move ourselves into a place of action, a place of storing activities. And since this is a very number-based place, then I want you to think about the numbers that are relevant to you. So as you're looking at your income number, I want it to be relevant to your profit number. Your profit number, remember, is what you get to keep. So each one of us has a number in our head that is a number that you want to have monthly. So now is your chance to close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and think about that profit number. I want you to, for a moment, just focus on it. Think about it. I want you to be comfortable with it. I want you to be happy with it. This number shouldn't be scary, and it shouldn't be disgusting. It should be a very good number you feel good about, something that you believe is reasonable. Now look at that cash flow number, and I want you to acknowledge that in order to have cash flow, there must also be expenses. There must also be revenue coming in. So I want you to now do some simple math in your head and say, I don't care how much work it is or how I have to get there. I understand that in order to have profit, cash flow, I must also have expenses. And it's okay to have expenses, because expenses are a function. They're paid for by my tenants. They're paid for by my assets. My assets pay for those expenses. So I want you to visualize the right number that could be relevant to getting a cash flow factor. If you're having a hard time with what that is, you can just hit the number 10, just multiply whatever your cash flow number is by 10, and that typically gets you the right amount of flow. The right amount of flow. That's the amount of expenses needed to get to the number. So if you have in your head $5,000, then you can hit that times 10. That's about $50,000 of flow, which is the money that comes in and out of your account. That'd be $50,000 in rents every single month. Or expenses in rents every month. Now brings you your cash flow, your profit of whatever your number is. Now, when you're looking at income now, because we're going in reverse, income has to be generated, which is your profit and cash flow. Remember that first number we started with. I want you to visualize that number, and I want you to add 10 to it. So if you start with 5,000, you're going to add 10 to it. That's 50,000. So you add those two together in your head, 55,000 equals the income number. So visualize, there's 3 steps to this. Visualize, going back, how easy that number is to have in cash flow. Then you multiply it by 10, and then you take that number and you add it to the previous number. And that's what gives you the income requirement, the revenue number, the gross rent number that you need to attract. So now that we know this number, I want you to visualize that number in your head. That's your revenue number. As long as your expenses are tight, you'll always be able to get to your profit number by focusing on this revenue number. I want you to feel the excitement of acquiring units, of acquiring and stacking units, acquiring and stacking revenue, gross rents, knowing that your ability to efficiently manage your portfolio may even be better than you imagined. Your cash flow could be improved, could be better than originally suggested. I want you to feel good about this, recognizing you are the best at acquiring units that you love to own, acquiring units that provide awesome cash flow, that provide an amazing amount of flow that you can operate properly with. And then finally, because you are a master of acquiring cash flowing properties, I want you to look at your equity and notice that equity increasing 5% every single year. Let's say that portfolio has an equity of $1 million. Who knows? Maybe it took you 5 years to get there. Maybe you acquired that property in year 1 and it gets there. But after $1 million every year, it's stacking. Year 1, it's got $1.05 million of equity, an additional 50,000 that wasn't there previously. Year 2, maybe that increases to, another 75,000. It just keeps adding up. So visualize in your head, the equity grows without you. Whether you're having fun with your kids, or you're sleeping, or you're working hard at the gym, that equity grows no matter what, because you started the calculation right. You focused on your cash flow. You only acquired things that cash flowed. I want you to feel in your head that you are a cash flow master. I want you to whisper the words, I am a master of cash flow, which is why I get rich. You whisper those words, I am a master of cash flow, which is why I get rich. I want you to say that over and over in your head. I am a master of cash flow, which is why I get rich. One more time. I'm a master of cash flow, which is why I get rich. And as we're coming out, we're going to relax a little bit. Those numbers are locked into our heads. We're going to write them down on a piece of paper as soon as we open our eyes. I want you to take a deep breath in, feeling that you are a master of cash flow indeed, which is why you get rich, because cash flow always leads to equity. The more cash flow there is, the more equity that comes to you. So take another deep breath in. We go 3, 2, 1. Open your eyes, recognizing you are a master of cash flow. I want you to write down that number, whatever that number was, your revenue number, write down your cash flow number, and store that in a place that's easy for you to get access to. We're going to open up to questions, because what is a community if not a wonderful resource for connecting with other human beings and getting to that same type of thinking that gets you to the results that you're looking for? Just a reminder of what Alchemist Nation is. We're here for financial freedom. We're here to get you to the result that you're looking for. We're here to help you get to that next level. Each one of us as a unit, as an individual, is greater because of the other people who are around us. So the more we focus on our financial freedom and the financial freedom of others, the more likely we are to attain our goals and help them attain their goals. And I'm telling you this now, and you've already noticed this, it's way more fun getting somewhere with friends, getting somewhere with people who are good, who care about you. And it's just easier to carry the load when somebody else knows something because they've researched a little deeper than you have. So let's give first everybody a big round of applause on the call for the work that they're doing, the education they're acquiring, the knowledge they're acquiring, the relationships they're acquiring. And then let's unmute the mic and start with the biggest question you have around either the 4 types of money or around financial freedom in general. And as you know, the first person who unmutes the mic gets the most points. Go ahead, Roland.
Yeah, so I have 2 things. One, I think as a property manager, we have to be good stewards of our owners' money. And I am, for one, always increase the rents between 1% and 10% every year. So I'm not afraid of increasing the rents. I always do that. That's the first thing. Second thing is, this may be a little bit deeper in the topic about these 4 different layers of money, right? You talked about the equity and how Elon Musk and those individuals, their value, their net worth is based on that equity. How do they live on a day-to-day basis on that money? Can you talk about how to leverage that equity without getting taxed and live like a billionaire, even though you're not getting paid in cash with that money?
Let's give Roland Charles a round of applause. He's right. He's one of the few property managers who focuses on your cash flow, focus on raising rents. And this question is one that I think each one of us has asked ourselves. You spend enough time on this. There are 2 ways. The first is that most of these CEOs have a payroll. They are on the payroll of their company, and they have what's called a reasonable paycheck. And that reasonable paycheck, I think for Elon Musk and for Bezos, was around $90,000 for a very, very long time. Mark Zuckerberg as well. And then eventually they reduce that number to something that is either 0 or non-existent. But in the beginning, they do have a paycheck that they receive. Later on, what they're doing is they're actually leveraging against their asset. So they'll borrow against their asset and pay themselves whatever they want, because the debt, as long as the debt is paid back by the asset, doesn't get taxed and it doesn't hurt their lives. So let's, for example, we'll go back to a property that's got an equity of $1 million, and you take out $200,000, and let's say you're going to pay yourself $50,000 a year. That's what you live on. Okay, how about this? You live in California and you're living off $150,000, and so you take out $300,000, and that's going to be what you pay yourself for the next 2 years. You've got 2 years, as long as the property can pay down that debt, and it's paying that debt down over a 2-year period. If you just did a HELOC and you just said it's a 2-year pay down, that's 2 years that you're able to take that money. Now, if your property went up in value and cash flow went increase and you acquired more property, you can do that again in 2 years. And you can continuously do this as long as your portfolio is growing faster than the debt you're taking on. As long as the portfolio is paying down that debt and growing faster than the debt you're borrowing, which most people do not do. So this is a risky maneuver for people who are not capable of expanding their portfolios at a fast enough pace. But for billionaires, it's no problem because they are expanding their portfolios far faster than they're consuming that money. Show of hands if you understand this is a billionaire's play because of their ability to acquire more. The average person, I don't suggest it. If you're only doubling your portfolio every year, it doesn't really make sense to borrow what you would spend in an entire year unless you drop your expenses down to something that you could pay off reasonably. And remember, most debt is about 20 years. So just think, can I pay this off in 20 years? If not, then it doesn't make sense to borrow and live off of. Except for some of you who are in very unique situations where you're going to build and acquire, use all that time to go and build and acquire an extremely large portfolio that cash flows more than you're costing. So fans, if you understand, debt is good, but there's also the profit that you can pay yourself. So the combination of both. Once you do get to a certain point, though, Roland, it becomes a no-brainer to just borrow and live off of borrowed money, especially if you can adjust your business to make all of your life a business expense. Then you have an additional way of making sure that the business is paying for your expenses. There's a lot of ways to do it. Let's give Roland Charles a big round of applause. There's a lot of ways to not pay taxes. The equity in your property is one of them. Next question. And that is, by the way, one of the strategies we're working on in the mastermind. It comes up quite a bit. So we do look at the person and their finances and say, okay, like based on where you're at, this would make the most sense. And we do that with everybody in the room just because everybody's learning. So fans, if I did Brian Mazzilli's finances, you'd all learn something, right? So that's kind of how the mastermind works. As we're going through one person's, we're learning and seeing that stuff in our own. So it's really cool. What else? Questions or shares? If you got a comment on the 4 types of money. The first to unmute wins. It gets points.
Everybody must still be sleepy from all the turkey.
Yeah, that tetra whatever's in there.
Tryptophan, whatever.
Is that what it is, tryptophan?
I don't know. I feel like someone's got something to say. They're just being shy.
Go ahead, Dina.
Yes, thank you. This is not along the lines of money, but kind of is. So my question is only because I don't know. I keep hearing multifamily and I understand, rents going up. But on senior living, is that the same? Do they go up annually?
So the cost of senior living there's a maximum limit per state. So the state level does have a limit of what you can charge because a lot of senior living goes by insurance companies. So there are limits to what can be made, but those limits do go up annually. So you just know the industry, know your market, and generally rents go up no matter what across all industries. Where senior living makes the most sense will be dictated by where the rents are going and where the costs are.
Okay. I just didn't know that answer. I was curious about it. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Let's give Dina a round of applause. I've seen a couple of questions in the chat, but go ahead. First, unmute wins. Yes, and I know Brian Mazzilli talked about it earlier. He said, sold things and regretted that. If you don't move into the right asset fast enough, you will regret every sale ever. Go ahead, Brian.
One thing that we've done is go back on properties. I've owned properties now for 20 years. We go back and look at properties, and even if you've owned them for a while, you can still do a cost segregation study. And this helps to avoid taxes. So kind of to answer the question, it's another thing that people do to pull money out, and then they offset it with the cost segregations.
100%. Another way to make sure you're not paying taxes, especially in years of a big gain, going back and taking those properties and doing a cost seg, which is basically just saying this part, I'm going to depreciate this part of the building, which will give you income back if had a big gain. Like Ron and I had a super huge gain this year. So we were just looking at all sorts of different ways, whether it was expenses, it was losses, it was depreciating some assets. Let's give Brian Mazzilli a round of applause. It's a great question. I see Michael Shine asked, is mastermind part of mastery? And that is a good question, because mastery involves live events like Mission to Millions, Master of Influence, Train the Trainer, Guerrilla Business School. It involves the mentorship, and it did include the mastermind as well. This is just the mastermind sold exclusively by itself. So just the 52 calls with the team and access to the mastermind itself. It does not involve the extra events that we're doing, the live in-person stuff, or any additional trainings. It doesn't come with Vinny Chopra's on-demand multifamily academy, syndication academy. This is just the mastermind component. So if you're looking to level up the people and network you're around, this is the mastermind. This is the right thing for you. And if you're looking more at the raising capital and getting all that training that comes with Mastery, that is a different program. I know they're close. And Mastermind is a component of Mastery, but the Mastermind alone is a standalone product and kicks ass. If you want to compare the value of it, the mentorship, which is very similar to it, was 8 weeks, and we charged anywhere between $1,000 to $1,500 for that. Now with the Mastermind, it's 52 weeks, so it's significantly larger. And it's 6 times larger, actually, and the price is only $5,000. So it's actually far more affordable to bundle it all together, and then the impact is far higher, because we built the millionaires through the mentorship. So we just figured if we do the mentorship 6 times and we increase the amount of activity that we're doing by putting in more offers, evaluating portfolios, doing ROE, then there's a good chance that we can build more millionaires faster. Show hands if you know I'll cheat. I'll take advantage of every situation I can to build millionaires. It is what it is, right? We did build some really complex products over the years, but we found that this one is the best one. So of the 38 products we've offered over the last 5 years together, Ron and I have evaluated all of them. And we said of all 38 products, the one that built the most millionaires was the most cost efficient and easiest for our community to implement was the Mastermind, which is essentially a 1-hour call every single week. And that's, yeah. So that's how we came to that conclusion. By the way, that we came to that conclusion by looking at our wealth principle 2 from last week. Choose a business that can make $1 million. Show fans, if you were here last week, Ron and I evaluated all of the products we ever offered, all the services we ever offered, and we came down to the one that actually delivered and built the most millionaires. And that was the mentorship fused with the mastermind. So taking the mentorship and just jacking it up and making it more valuable by putting it into more recurrence. We realized we're not a training company. We're an accountability company. That's really what makes a person successful. I say it all the time, knowledge, network, and accountability. So we're not a knowledge company and we're not a network company. It's that accountability that has made our millionaires successful. And so we don't sell insurance, we sell assurance. So we'll assure that you get across the finish line. So let's give Ron Bowling a round of applause on figuring that out. Without the math, without looking back at who became a millionaire, how they became a millionaire, what programs they were in, we would not have known any of this. Where do you find the details for Mastery, Manny? That is, you go to mastery.alchemistnation.com. And if you're looking for the mastermind, that is mastermind@alchemistnation.com. And if you do want to get some questions answered, you can just jump on a call with Brian Schilling. He's geared on everything. He was there at the summit, or you can jump on a call with Dina. Both of them know the products inside and out, and their job is to ask you questions to see if they're even right for you. If one of our programs is not right for you, our team is known to say no. In fact, there was a gentleman at the summit. Oh my God, can I tell a story? So if I can tell a story, I told somebody, no, I won't take your money. All right. This guy had just gone through 2 training programs. One he paid $35,000 for, and the other one he paid $10,000 for. And when he spoke to me, I asked him, how much real estate do you own? And he said, none. I'm working on these programs. I was like, then you haven't earned the right to buy any of my programs because you haven't made your money back. You haven't bought real estate. You've been in this program for 8 months and you haven't bought anything. You are not going to be that guy who comes to me and then doesn't do stuff. I'm not interested. Show fans, if you understand, sometimes you got to say no to people who just don't take action, who just aren't doing things. So he looked at me and he was like, what? He said, what do you mean? I said, yeah, man, you haven't earned the right to buy my product yet. You haven't earned the right. You've got to go take action on the stuff you've already bought. You've got to go and show me that you're an action taker. Go show me that you've gotten good information, because I know both of the coaches, they're great quality coaches, great quality programs. You haven't earned it. You haven't earned the right to get into this. And That blew his mind. And he gave me the biggest hug, like a back-breaking hug. He said, man, nobody's ever had this conversation with me. He's like, I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that it wasn't the programs, that it wasn't somebody else, that it was me not doing what I'm supposed to do. And he said, I want it. Can I get in now? And I was like, no, you cannot get in. Like, what is this? Some sort of, what are you, a salesperson? I said, bro, like, I will absolutely let you in when you've locked down a deal and closed on it. And locking it down is not enough. I need you to make money to pay back what you just spent. I need you to do that for me because you're living off of savings. He was living off of savings, right? He made some money in the business. He was living off savings, or he made some money off of an insurance thing, but whatever it was, like, he was running out. And that isn't the time to go buy the next course. That's the time to take action. That's the time to get shit done, to go lock things down, to make some money, get a return on investment. So fans, if you understand, it's about ROI and it's about ROE. Right now, I'm going to share with you the secret to wealth building that Warren Buffett talks about, that Benjamin Franklin talks about, that every one of these wealth builders, these millionaires and multimillionaires on the call knows already. Your wealth is completely dictated on the things you did 5 years ago, the skills you acquired 5 years ago, the communication skills, the mindset skills, the people you acquired, the people who motivate you, your drive, your desire, your business skills, your real estate skills, and then the assets that manifested after you became that person. You're getting this compound effect of who you are. You're getting the compound effect of what you've done because of who you are. The ROE, return on equity, is showing up daily for you. If you have in your life, your body is where it wants to be, that's because you changed something about your habits a long time ago. If your relationships with your spouse and your kids is where you want them to be, it's because at some point you changed the way you interact with human beings, especially the ones closest to you. And if your portfolio is where you want it to be, it's because at some point you decided this is the kind of assets I will acquire and the way I will acquire them. Not all acquisitions are created equal. You can buy a portfolio, a great portfolio, the wrong way, and it can lose money. Terms are so important. How you invest is so important. How you borrow the money, how you partner in a deal, who you partner with, how you do your projects, how you manage your properties. You can have my portfolio and still lose money. You can have a portfolio bought at an extreme discount and still lose money. And I've seen guys who've paid more than they should on a portfolio and still crush it, because they understood terms. They understood how to manage and mitigate prices and everything. How you negotiate, how you manage your property will absolutely dictate that what you do with your property to get cash flow out of it will absolutely dictate how successful you become. And obviously that's what we talk about inside the mastermind. So shameless plug for those of you who are in the mastermind, I love you. And for those of you who are jumping in, I love you. Let's go kick some ass this year. All of the stories that I come up with are from people within the mastermind, the people who are actually actively doing it. You're my inspiration. If I don't work with you in the mastermind weekly, then I probably don't know much about what you're going through. So I do want to know more deals, more stories. And that's one of the reasons we're opening the mastermind up. It makes my content better and it helps me help more people. So the more challenges you're facing, the more likely you need a mastermind. The more challenges you're facing, the more better my content gets. So let's give everybody a big round of applause on a call. Thank you so much for the years of dedication to yourself, to this craft, to buying more real estate, to our millionaires, to our coaches, to Brian Mazzilli, Billy Reuter, Larry Steinhaus, to Jen Sullivan for Jen's Pen, my business partner, Ron, for all the dedication he does behind the scenes. 8 years of tight spots, good positions, bad positions. Mitch Jorsky for running the Scaredy Cat Guide to Real Estate Investing, running the mastermind, the mentorship. Mark Dozwa for making sure Alchemist Connect is geared towards getting you more relationships. We are working really hard on the platform to make sure that you can get more capital over the next few weeks and months. And all that technology side comes from Mark. Brian Schillen for making sure that people are getting into the right programs. Adina for making sure that her group and everybody she works with are getting into the right programs, the right strategies. And my business partners, Darina, Greg for locking deals down for us, Cliff for showing up with his camera on, Roland, Charles for helping property managers, properties get to that next level. Let's give everybody on this call a big round of applause. Love each and every one of you. Mary Lynn for making sure our community, our leaders know where they're going. It has been a powerful 4.5 years of building millionaires, 4.5 years of seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. This year, we're going to simplify. We're going down to the nuts and bolts of what really makes a person successful. we're going with the DIY. Let's do it yourself, right? DIY, like come in, read stuff, go be successful. The done with you, this is the mastermind. Come in, we work with you to get to that next level. And hopefully in the next 30 days to 45 days, we'll have it done for you, the DFY, which is very expensive, but we build a portfolio for you. And we probably have some sort of equity component in that where we take a little bit of equity from all those deals. Show of hands if you understand, we're focused on real estate acquisitions this year, next year, the year after. That's our only focus. And I have been sitting in meetings about building housing on the moon. So even though I said it at the summit as an unrealistic target, people are now putting me in position to get it done. So wouldn't be doing cool shit if it wasn't for each one of you. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Cheers to your success. We have a choice. Always work with the
Walter,
best.
real quick, before we let everyone go, you left out
Right.
the most important business partner of all. It's the
Oh.
business partner in training coming in June 2024. Let's give Walter a round of applause and Darina for the baby boys on the way.
That is right. I knew I would not get out of talking about this. So I do have a baby boy on the way, and Darina has done a lot of work to make sure that he's healthy. She's cut out alcohol. She's cut out tobacco. We don't do hookah anymore. She's been doing Pilates every day. Yep. Let's give Darina a big round of applause. She knows she can't ride horses. Come December, she's not allowed to ride horses anymore because of the bouncing. So Darina's made a lot of sacrifice to make sure Alchemist Nation has our next millionaire homegrown. So for all the support, thank you so much. I know most of you, in fact, all of you are great parents. And so we're honored to be able to learn
Beautiful
from
thing,
you.
brother. You can't put a price on it.
That's right. So we're honored to be able to learn from me personally, from the fathers in the community, and Darina from the mothers. And so we're very, very thankful for each one of you. Thank you, Brian. On that note, go and study your properties. Please share with a friend what they might be missing out on. If they're a property owner or a landlord and they might be missing out on this ROE conversation, please be the one to do the math with them. If you're having a hard time with the math, please send me a message and we'll figure out. I've written many articles on it. I may do more videos to make sure that people in this community have the opportunity to be able to share this with others, because it is about helping others right now. There are more senior citizens who have too much equity and not enough cash flow. They're house rich, cash poor, and they don't need the assets where they're going. And that's a tough conversation to have, but I'm telling you, they don't care about equity anymore. They need cash flow, and they need somebody like you to show them how they can get there. They need somebody who is going to do the deals morally, ethically, and legally, so they can help transfer their wealth to somebody who's going to do a very good job. If you're having a hard time having those conversations, jump into the mastermind. I saw somebody ask, like, what is the conversation? We talk about that almost every week, how to have this conversation, how to inspire a person, how to make them feel comfortable. And the only way you get into that mastermind is you got to do all your deals morally, ethically, legally. Cheers to success. We have a choice. I always work with the best. I'll see you next week. Next week's principle, if I didn't say it earlier, if you missed it, is we're going to go into put all your eggs in one basket and guard that basket. How to defend your assets and how to choose the right assets to be defending. So I'll see you on the next one.